Hello, this is Christian. Since now we created the server, it's running, it's working perfectly fine. We need to go ahead and fetch some data and push those data back out to the user. So we have this thing called polling, right? So you pull data and display to the user. So I'm going to go ahead and create here a well, actually before I do that, I'm going to modify this code a little bit so you can see a different way to do this as well. Okay, so this is the one that is done in the book. And I'll show you a different way. Let me just comment this out here so you can see. Okay, the new method, I should say new, just another one method to do it is going to something very similar. Instead of express, I'm going to go app directly and require the express. And then I'm going to go ahead and call the function right away. Okay, so this line takes these two lines together and put it in the same line. Okay, you can do that, or you can keep it as was before. That's completely fine too. You can do that. That's okay. It's entirely up to you. You can leave both if you want. Again, kind of redundant, right? So you can do that. I'm just showing you. I'm not gonna. We'll leave that there, and you can do that as well. And the reason why I keep express here is because later on we're gonna have this redirect to a, I'll show you how to redirect to a folder. Okay, so you can do that there, and then you can say the constant HTTP is equal to require the HTTP, and then, oops, HTTP, and I'm going to call a function called server. Okay, I'm going to pass the app directly right to it, and that creates a server. So this one here takes care of these two lines all in one. Okay, so we got that, and then the last one will be similar. We just have to listen to the socket. So same thing, a little bit different, but you'll see. So constant IO equals the required socket .io, and then here we just put the HTTP. We pass HTTP to it right away. Okay, and we're done because that's all you really need for this route. And then now notice that again the HTTP is the one that it's creating the server instead of the server. So when we listen to it down here, let me copy this down here. Then instead of saying the server, this would be the HTTP. This is why I got confused last time. So it'll be the HTTP that's listening to that server instead. And if I save this and go back to the command line and cancel that, Control C to cancel that. So every time you make changes to your JS file, you have to cancel it, Control C, and then restart the server again. Otherwise, sometimes it won't work. So as you can see, it's still working just as fine. And if I open that app again and refresh it, okay, so it's still working just as fine. I guess I can use either way. And since I have this already, I'll leave it this way. Okay, so now in between here is where all the things happens. I mean, it doesn't have to be in here. It could be in the below. It's fine. We'll put it down here. It's okay. Okay, so the first thing is we want to do the get request, right? So that when the user load that file, it's gonna load something. And let me just maximize this, and I'll put that here so we can see. Okay, so here's my file. I hope this is a quicker way, but okay, so this I'll put here. On the left side is the one I want to write. So it could be the app.get, and if I go to the root directory, that's what it means, right? The root directory, and then once I do that, I'm going to pass a function. This function is a anonymous function or return or what do you call that one? A callback function. You have the request and response. You can use the whole word if you want. I'm just using the rec and the res. And then here is where we will do a res.send. If you just do response.send, there's two functions. One is res.send, one is res.send file. Okay, so if you just do send, that means you can send the data directly to the browser from using this command. So just for simplicity's sake, we're just going to do that and save that file. So now if you go back and then to the terminal and restart again, Control C, run it again, okay? And if I go to the browser, refresh, okay, so you see that that message has been sent to the browser because you gotta get request, meaning I come to this site, I'm requesting a page, and the server responds by sending this message to you. So the browser sends you that, you get that. Okay, so the source code is very simple, just H1, as exactly what we see here. And this is not efficient because you don't want to put all your HTML code in here, which is why instead of doing this, you would send a file instead. So instead of doing that, I'm going to comment this out and we'll do a send file. What file is it? Well, it's a file called maybe index.html, right? So index.html. And that file needs to be located. If I do it this way, I'm expecting that index file to exist in the root directory of my page here. If I don't, it's not going to find it. So if I save that and Control C down here, we run it again, and if I refresh, you see that it's not found. There's no such thing as index. Okay, you cannot find the file. So so usually again, you put that inside the public folder. So if I click the public folder, click on it, add a new file, and this is the index.html. Okay, so you leave that, just save it, and go back to your terminal, Control C, up arrow, run it again. And if I run it again, you see that it still doesn't find it because we didn't direct it to go to that location. So here is where you need to redirect to that folder, public folder. I could say, public/index and save that, and then Control C, up arrow, run, and refresh. And did it work? It didn't work. Well, maybe I need a / from the root directory. Well, let's see. Save that again. Control C, up arrow, and yeah. So it's going there, right? As you can see, it says, well, no, it's not. It's going for the root of the root directory. You don't want that either. Okay, you don't want that. You want the current directory, which is this. Okay, so that means you have to put that underscore dir name, if you remember that, the current directory, wherever it is, relative to the server, plus the public, so in the root directory here, plus the public, and then HTML. Okay, so save that, and okay, save, Control C down here, up arrow, run, and then refresh over here, and there it is. Okay, it's not there, it's nothing there because the file is empty. All right, so you can do this way, or the book also asks you, which is kind of convenient, is to create, before you do that, just add something to the HTML here. Okay, so doc type. I'm gonna go and type this in. I'll pause it. Okay, so I filled this in very quickly. Just a simple HTML file, so we know that what's going to be shown on the screen. We can see that on the browser to make sure it's working. So I'm going to go and Control C down here, up arrow, run, and then refresh. And now we should see that message there if it's working correctly. Did I save it or not? Doc type. Let's try it again. Control S, save that file in the public directory, and Control C that. Control run again, and it's not working. Let's do something. Well, it's a typo, I think. Let's see. It's there. Oh, okay, the head tag. Forgot to close that one. Close that tag there. Okay. Now that should work. All right, so refresh, and there's the this message. Oh, come on, you got to show something. Head, title. Forgot to close my title now. Okay, save that again. Okay, it should work. There you go. All right, so it's there. So now we know that it's working. Now in the in here, if you want to always, redirect to the public folder, you can by going to the app use, right? And then here you put the directory of that location, and then you can put like the address of that file. The directory for that file, where to send it to. And I think that's in the book as well. The book kind of shows you how to do that. and you can use that to load your function. But so basically here is the, I think it's the express dot static, right? And then here you have a directory for that location. So in this case will be like underscore underscore dir name, and then dir name is the same one down here, plus the public. Okay, so if you do that, then it's gonna search for that directory when you do something like this. So instead of saying send file, the whole thing here, I could just put the index now, like that. So I don't have to worry about the whole directory thing because now it's managed by this use. So Node will look for this file index, and it's gonna find this directory, the root directory in the public folder, and it's gonna grab that. I think you want to put that / that too. Let's see. Okay, so let's save this again. Control save, up arrow, run, and run again. So you can see it's still working just fine. And just to prove that doesn't work, if I change this to like public X, if I save and Control C, run again, you see that it's now failing, right? So that's working. So that's one way to do it. Another is, what if you have multiple directories? You can do that as well. You can copy that and put another one here. Let's just say I put another one called chat folder, right? So if I save that, on the left side, I have to go and create a chat folder here. I have a public one, and then make sure I click the direct folder, click another one called chat, okay? And then save that file, and then go ahead and run it again. Control C, up arrow, run, and refresh. Okay, because it's working, it's looking in the directory here. What it does is this, it looks for this file. Okay, this index file is going to go to the static directory and looks in this directory from top to bottom in this sequence. So it look in the public folder, is there an index file there or not? If there is, pull it, use that one, which is why in this case it uses that one. If it's not there, it will go to the next one. Is it in the chat? Go and use that one. Okay, so for example, if I move this to the chat program, if I add, well, if I copy this and put it in here, okay, and let me modify this in here. I'll put here message say in the chat folder. Okay, so we see that's the chat folder. This is in the public folder. So we can see, okay? And then in the app here, so by default, this is going to be the chat and the public folder. Again, you have to go and refresh it. Yeah, I'm now modifying the JS file, so it's fine. So it's in the chat public folder right now. If I go and then let's just say remove the public folder, turn that off, save, Control C down here, up arrow, and refresh it. As you can see, it loads the chat folder instead now because it's going to go into the chat folder for index call, index.html file. Okay, so this becomes very handy as well. Watch out when you have two duplicate files like this because you may not want to have to load a different file. So you want to load the correct file. If you have two index files in each of these folders, then the first occurrence, the first one it finds, it's going to load that. So it's kind of tricky, so make sure you you're aware of that. Okay, so I'll leave this in the chat for now since we're going to use in the chat anyway. So, and then the next thing is we're going to create the socket, right, to communicate between the server and the front end, which is the front page over here. So this is the customer facing. This is in the private facing in the back here. So to do that, we need to set the I/O to detect the connection when a user logs into the page. Okay, so we need to go here and then write, and we're going to close this for now. Okay, let me expand this, close that for now, give some space. Okay, so we need to go ahead and put io.on, and on is we use the connection and then a function, okay, to turn on the connection. When someone comes to the connection to the site, it detects that, and then it will send us a message, and then it needs to send an object In this case, we'll call it socket. Okay, so a socket object, and the socket object allows us to check the status of what's going on in the front end. Okay, and it sends back and forth and so forth. So when a user logs into this page like I do now, it's going to detect that because it's constantly listening to this port number up here. When it detects that, I mean, it's a user visits the page, and you can put a message to yourself saying that a user is connected. So we know that that one is somebody is there. Okay. At the same time, you can also write another function called socket.on, and then here is the disconnect. When someone leaves the server, the site, we want to use another function here, and it can be just empty parameter, and just put a message here as well. Say a user left the chat room. Okay, so we know that the user left. That means when they close the browser, when they navigate away from this site. Okay, so we can do that there. And then let's say save that file, and back to the terminal, Control C, up arrow. Okay, so now if it works, you should see a message down here. If it doesn't, if I refresh it, okay, so nothing happens. And the reason why is because now we need to go back to the front end, which is this side, and write a script to talk to this back end. Right, so go to the index on the chat. This is the chat one, right? So make sure you're on the chat index right here. So now we need to do a few things. One, if you need to import the script, which is the socket script, okay, src is going to be inside the socket.io, and then just put again the socket.io.js file. This is the one that we need to call. Again, you don't have to worry about where that file is because it will be managed by Node. It's in the module. And so that's there. And on the bottom down here, we're going to go and put on the bottom because you don't have to worry about loading the DOM. So script down here. And you can also use an external script if you want. And just load it. I'm going to just put it here. It's kind of short, so we'll put it here. And we need to create a variable called socket is IO, and it needs to instantiate that object. So once we do that, now it's receiving data to the socket IO, which is the same file it's going to be called inside here. So now they're talking to each other. Without this connection, it does not know what to do. Okay, so now this one is listening to the page. So Control Save to save that. And then once that's saved, you can go ahead and reload the file again. Control C, up arrow, run, and watch what happens when I refresh the screen. Okay, you see that it says user is connected down here. Okay, so every refresh, it's like a user comes to this page. And the simpler way, I guess the more practical way, is to load two different browsers. So let me duplicate this. Okay, I have two browsers now, and one on the left, one on the right. You see that this one here is one, this is the other one. Now when I close this, it's a user disconnected, right? A user left the room because I left, and this is still there. Okay, so now it's responding nicely, and through this socket object to the back end, and they're talking to each other. All right, so it knows now. Okay, so our next thing is to build a form here so that it sends data back and forth between the two.